Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Come on in. Just starting to let people into the event. This is the vibe coding show and tell. Hello, welcome, welcome. Gonna throw up page of some of our upcoming events. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Can you hear the music, by the way? No. I was trying to get more atmosphere here to put some music while we all wait, but clearly I'm not adept with the Zoom to get that. Anyway, just letting more people in. Gonna let some people in before we get started. Unlike the previous time we did this, so as you may have seen, I asked people to go ahead and submit some pitches ahead of time. So we have about 6 demos set to go of various people showing off projects. So we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. Okay, glad to see you all here. You're in the right place for the vibe coding show and tell. Um, just admitting more people. We'll get going shortly. We'll give it like 1 more minute, and then we'll get started. Just 1 more minute, we'll get started. Hang in there. Okay. Nice crowd. Thanks for joining us on an August day here. People want to go ahead and say hi in the chat and say where you're calling in from, you can go ahead. Sorry, my music didn't play everywhere. Okay. All right. I think we can go ahead and get started. So yeah, and I hope everybody's here who signed up to demo, who is on the list. So I think we're going to kick things off with Michael Stoll from San Francisco. Are you here?
I am. Thanks for thanks for putting this together.
I can't hear you, Michael.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
And you can go ahead and share your screen if you'd like to demo too. So basically the format is, so Michael's going to kick us off, not a coder, journalist, editor from San Francisco Public Press, right? Or what is your title these days? I'm not even sure. But
I'm a senior editor and chief troublemaker.
okay, cool. So yeah, awesome to have you here. And I remember talking back in the day when I was like, why are you launching a print newspaper in San Francisco? Are you crazy? So that's very cool to have you now demoing an AI vibe coded project. So everything comes full circle. Yeah. Um,
Well, you always want to design the technology for the right purpose. So the right tool for the right purpose. And uh, we we have a small newsroom that has worked in a number of different ways and a number of different um, uh, cadences and levels of complexity. And we had a particular problem to solve, which was um, organizing our story budget in a mixed remote in-person context. So I guess I can share my screen and um, uh, show you what I've got. Oh, it says sharing is not turned on. Uh, so, Bert, I sent a request to share my screen.
Oh, I think I approved it. Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
okay, great. Wonderful. Okay. All right. Can you see?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. So San Francisco Press is a nonprofit newsroom. We're about a dozen people. It kind of uh, flexes up and down. But this is how many people we have kind of working on stories on any particular week. Um, we do local public policy investigations, so not a lot of breaking news. A lot of these projects go on for several weeks, and they require coordination among different reporters. Um, we have long planning horizons, remote collaboration. We were mostly in office until the pandemic. Then we were entirely online, and we had to kind of figure out how to run our newsroom on Zoom. But we wanted to keep everybody kind of in the loop about what we were working on, and um, we we have so we have had this kind of online Zoom meeting, just a stand up for 45 minutes every week to for reporters to present their progress on stories, and a lot of information shared very quickly, and it's very hard to keep track of all the details of what everyone's doing, especially when there's multiple editors. So we wanted to make sure that there was a common source of truth, so that writing things down in a standardized way, so that nobody's surprised when a story goes in a different. So we've tried a bunch of different tools, all kind of off the shelf. Some of them free, some of them paid, and none of them quite did what we wanted to do to put together our weekly story budget. It seems like a pretty simple thing to do, but I've never seen it done well, and I've never seen it done in a way that just met the needs of our newsroom. So we started out years ago with Google Docs. We moved to Smartsheet, then we moved to Airtable, then we moved to Google Sheets, then we moved back to Google Docs as of like 2 months ago. And then I said we have to do something different. The tools are good enough, AI is good enough, so that we can just create a custom solution. Um, yeah, Airtable in particular was we had stuck with that for maybe 5 years. It was good enough, but it was very limited. The design was really wonky. We couldn't customize that very much, and every user who was an editor we had to pay, and it just didn't scale for our organization. So I decided to take a new approach, Vibe Code, a very basic tool. I used Codex on ChatGPT. I go back and forth between ChatGPT and Claude Cowork for my work, but Codex was kind of uh, much simpler, or much more consistent output in the coding space. Um, Codex guided me toward Google Apps Sheets, and part of it is we're on a Google workspace for our email and for our shared Google Docs. So it kind of made sense to do author through that. And I created a custom subdomain using Cloudflare to direct our reporters so that they couldn't get lost. They always knew what the URL was. Uh, it's totally free, infinitely customizable. Can you guys see this? Just too small.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
But you're running a little low on time, so let's see the demo if you can get to it. Yeah.
Um, we can we'll just yeah. So there's lots of future upgradability. I could show you the old tools, but I will just well, here's what we were using as of a month ago. Um, uh, this is Google Sheets, lots of flexibility, very awkward design. Story slugs go off, go out of the box. In order to get more information, you have to scroll. Um, so this is slug, writer, um, summary, the different phases or the story length, media, who's the editor. Like it all kind of makes sense, but it's all very flat and it's just overwhelming to deal with. Um, and people forget to fill things in. They move stuff around and the format gets changed accidentally. So it was just very clunky, we used filter views, but then they were
I'm
hard
gonna
to
cut you
hide
off,
stuff.
Michael. If you got to show us your real thing, let me see the real thing. Because yeah, we got
This
a
is
bunch of
this
people.
is the new,
Oh,
this is
oh,
the new version.
okay, awesome. That's
Um,
way cooler. Yes.
uh, this is just 1 week view. You can scroll back and forth different weeks. You create a new story by going up here. It gives you a form just with what you want. Just the basics, the slug, the summary, the status, names of the reporters and editors. You can put in a word target, draft date, and publish date. So it's very much stripped down. So these are all of the stories. These are just kind of dummy stories that we're working on. You can sort by draft and publish date. You can click into a particular date and see what is on deck for that week. If you go back to the week view, um, you can see what status stories are in. If you can zoom in to see the social and promo um, material. This is the art, the embedded media, and any kind of other notes that you want to leave to each other. And so when uh, uh, there's also this other view where you zoom in to a particular story and you can edit. And so you can when you're in a meeting, you can edit these live. It shows you where in the lineup it is, and then you can go back to the all stories view. And then so each week you can kind of scroll back and forth and see, okay, what's coming up next week. Well, uh, next week I only have one story. This is again just another dummy story.
So how long did it take you to do this whole thing?
I think about 4 hours on the front end and then another 4 hours of tweaking.
Nice.
So about
And this is like your style, like the way it looks is like your website kind of design and everything. Yeah.
yeah, more or less.
Okay. Cool. So the way we're going to do this is people are going to kind of show projects and then happy to have questions if people want to post a question in the chat and ask something or yeah, or if and maybe then I will ask people to unmute to ask, but yeah, feel free to ask any questions in the chat for Michael about his story thing. I feel like this is like, yes, every newsroom has asked for these kind of things and always is frustrated with their system. So I guess like the solution is to potentially build it entirely yourself, and now you can tweak however you want for your very specific use case, right?
Yeah, and if I had known exactly what I wanted ahead of time, I could have done it in half the time. But I was really just experimenting and chatting back and forth with ChatGPT. This took me one chat, one session, and I was doing the local file sync in the ChatGPT app. So I
Somebody
was
asked, which I was kind of curious too, is the backend still technically a Google Sheet? Is that where the data is stored?
yeah yeah. So this is the raw data, and the stories are just lines in a database,
Okay.
just displayed more elegantly.
And how is it? It's using like a command line interface tool or just
It,
API access to get to the Google
it
stuff?
it's it, there's a function called Google Apps Sheets, and it integrates into a function in Google Sheets that allows you to. It's basically like an API for Google Sheets.
Right. Cool. Yeah.
And
That's pretty common, like that people would just still use the back end of Google Sheets rather than like setting up a whole database and having to deal with all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so I've created a ticketing system so that reporters can go in and they can say, hey, this thing doesn't work. And then that goes directly also into the Google Sheet as well.
Oh, nice. And
Um,
you have like
there's
an,
also
yeah.
it just goes directly into the the a tab in the Google Sheet. Um, and I have an admin uh, access portal in the background, so I can add people um, from outside of our subdomain selectively, and then it tracks who's been invited.
Nice. Okay. Paul had one question too. If you were to do it all over again, or Paul, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, you mentioned that if you knew what you wanted, you would do it faster. But if you were to do it all over again, how would you figure out what you want earlier?
Um, I think it was really it was really helpful to have conversations early on with the staff to say, how would you interact with this? And I'm still getting feedback from them. Like we haven't actually, we're planning on rolling it out next week. Um, but I think part of the problem was part of the difficulty was what do we delete from our process? What do we not need to track? Because if you're tracking everything, you're tracking nothing. Because there's so much busy work to fill in little boxes. So to strip it way back to the absolute necessary information to track without adding a half an hour of work for every story. And some stories that's just too much of an administrative overhead. So I was trying to put a lot of I was trying to put a lot more information into this, and I'm like, okay, do I really need this? No. Do I really need this? No. And staff pointed out a bunch of that as well. There was an intermediate step where we tried to translate this into a flat format. And so basically what we did was we wrote it out as in Google Docs as this is the bare minimum information that we need, and this is very much boiled down from the Google Sheet. But the problem with Google Docs was you can change, there's a template here, but it's very fiddly. And if you accidentally like, you know, move stuff around, you've busted the format. The benefit, the benefit with a coded solution is that there's one admin and the admin controls the formatting. And so people can't go in and mess up the tool while they're trying to enter data.
Cool. No, thanks a lot, Michael. Yeah, awesome. Curious to hear how it goes when you launch it with your staff coming up soon. So next up we have Drew Bennett. Drew, if you could go ahead and share your screen and unmute.
Oh, good afternoon, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Let's see. Hold on, I have to grant permission to share 1 second. Sorry, I didn't realize I was going to have to do that step. Is it sharing now?
Yep.
There we go.
Stop
Okay.
it. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Drew Bennett. I'm an executive producer at Spectrum News in Louisville, Kentucky. Um, I've been vibe coding, well, not really vibe coding, but I got into AI a couple years ago just through custom prompts and cloud projects and that sort of thing. And then I got really into kind of building agentic systems and workflows and really using AI to try to make a difference in the newsroom just in the past 6 months or so. And so one of the biggest challenges in our newsroom was we have this network of highway transportation department cameras. This is not flock cameras. These are just cameras run by the state to, keep an eye on the highways for crashes and that sort of thing. But they also provide some nice beauty shots to use in our newscast. But the way we accessed these cameras was through this very antiquated VLC media player that you're looking at on your screen. I'm not on the computer that runs on, so this is just a short video of it. But there's really just not a lot of information here. You got a raw server address, a brief description of the location of the camera, then what county it's in, and then these cameras just take a really long time to load. And the biggest issue is there wasn't, as you can see, there's no way to preview what any of these cameras look like. So sometimes they open in black and white, like this one right here. Or other times they may be pointed at the ground or the sky or a car accident or, whatever the purpose is. And so then you also couldn't open more than one camera at a time. So all of those were just challenges that I and our other producers in this newsroom were facing. So I took this screenshot and I said all of that, what I just told you to Claude, and then I described what the ideal system could look like. And then Claude helped me build this type of dashboard. So there's 244 cameras that we have access to through the state. And so now they're broken out by zone, by region. There's Louisville, Lexington, Northern Kentucky, and Bowling Green. So we can filter cameras a lot faster. I wanted a favorites feature so producers could favorite the cameras that they like. Again, sometimes we use these for little beauty shots or bump shots going to break. So you could quickly star a camera and they show up in your favorite section. And then the biggest thing I wanted out of this system was a playlist or a queue. So we could rotate through cameras quickly. So you could queue up to 5 cameras. That was just a number Claude and I decided on to try it to not overwhelm the server. And then you can click a queue button here, and then they will load. And then the producer, whoever's controlling this, can use the right arrow key to cycle through these cameras live on air. If you go too quickly, you get a little flash to black there in between. So you kind of have to give it 2 or 3 seconds to load. And so this has been in use in production in our newsroom now for probably 3 or 4 months. And many of our producers have described this as game changing for a lot of different reasons. Another feature that Claude and I talked about was a time lapse feature. So in Louisville, they just shut down a major section of interstate right through the heart of downtown. They shut it down for 2 months to replace 3 bridges, and they justified that as, we can shut it down for 2 months, or we can, off and on this thing for the next 18. So I built a whole playlist here that just shows the cameras that were in the construction zone. And then I also worked with Claude because of all the back end work Claude did on this. I can't take any credit for it. We were able to create a time lapse. So we did a 7-minute interval time lapse every day of the construction project. So every day ends up being about 5 seconds. The entire 2-month project was condensed to about 5.5 minutes. And then I also set it up to where I can export clips daily for reporters to use in their package as B-roll, or that we could put in monitors behind the anchors as they presented the story for various updates throughout the 2-month project with these time lapses. So this has been a great change for our newsroom. I'm demoing this and talking to more Spectrum people about this in the future about how individuals in the newsroom can be used to help vibe code small solutions like this. So, and I'm building a bunch of other stuff, but this is what I really wanted to show off today. So, Bert, I appreciate you making this opportunity available.
No, this is very, very cool. Yeah, I've done some things fooling around with traffic cameras just on my own devices, but you've taken it obviously to the next level and doing this like at such scale. This is really cool. You have very high resolution, nice traffic cameras, I must say, there in Kentucky. They're way
Yeah,
better.
they really, I was talking with one of our meteorologists about kind of doing something similar for them in Missouri, and the cameras there are just, the quality is terrible, and they're all pointed like almost straight down. And here we have a lot of really nice views that these cameras give us.
Yeah, and the time lapse thing is super cool to use it
Yeah,
like.
the time lapse was great. That was a really great idea. Our meteorologists do time lapse in their, WSI system. So I was like, hey, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? So yeah, thank
Uh,
you. I appreciate this.
a few questions. Yeah, Mike Riley asked if you actually are considering making this public so other people could use it too, just the regular public.
Um, no, our agreement with the state to use these cameras, we have an agreement with the state that allows us to use these cameras, to use the live video stream, because it's their back, the cameras are coming from their servers, not ours. So the state does make still snapshots available on a state-run website, but sharing the video, to the public wouldn't be allowed with our agreement, through our
Okay,
agreement.
so it is that you have special access, which is why you can get all these feeds in a nice
Yeah.
way. Yeah. Um, and Joe, you want to unmute and ask and say what you were thinking there? So thanks for joining us, Joe. Nice
That's
to
always dangerous. The first thing I thought was I would love to set up one screenshot on a particular camera, like one camera per day, one screenshot every 5 seconds, run it through some vision analysis to track like the choke points, like activity or whatever, and then just have a cron sort of like cycle through each camera over the course of how long it takes, and then look at that data in aggregate. Mostly because I don't know how heavy or compute costly it is to set up one of those like vision AI, vision basically flock, but for good, I guess, to see where, maybe police activity, emergency response times, compared to different avenues or areas or communities. Like my brain just started going crazy with extracting the screenshots to cut down on the volume of stuff, maybe focusing on one or two cameras in the same or one area, and then throwing that data at Codex or Claude, or whatever, to process, or even using the free Gemini CLI, or I guess anti-gravity CLI calls that you get like 1,500 a day to do the vision breakdown first pass, and then just creating structured data out of that, and then seeing what turns up as a sort of gestalt SAT
Yeah,
word there. I had to throw that in there. Sorry.
yeah. That's a crazy idea I'd never thought of. That sounds like you're a data engineer and I'm a TV producer, and we just have different minds.
I think I'm mostly just excited about projects that will let me procrastinate my real work, so I dive into stuff like this immediately. But hell
I
yeah,
feel
dude,
that
I
as
love
well.
this.
I feel that as well.
Are these updating? Like, do these update with a snapshot preview like every so often, or you have to click and then refresh the page to get
So yeah,
these?
the snapshot updates, it takes about 5 minutes. So it starts at
Yeah.
the top of the list and it just runs through the list. So by the time it gets through all 244 cameras, it's updating roughly every five
Even
minutes.
if even if you didn't do like a screenshot every 5 seconds for a larger, longitudinal analysis, you could set up something that looks for unusually congested areas outside of peak times to identify accidents or cars in certain regions, like the shoulder, to do some kind of like early alert system that would, identify anomalies based on screenshots or whatever, and then forward that on as little alerts to either reporters and or officials in emergency crews, public works teams.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea too.
Yeah. No, I played around with some vision stuff. I mean, with Claude, and it just like loaded up a whole library to do vision analysis on my machine. It ran through things like you can even using local models on a computer.
Side note, not to derail, but anybody else finding Claude frustrating lately with this, or are you guys still Claude pilled? Because I am, but I'm fading over the last 2 months. But that's a distraction. Continue.
Yes, Joe, don't pull us off the rail. No, this is super cool. Let's keep going. But yeah, that's really great. I'd love to see what you're doing there, Drew. Next up is Joey Coleman. Joey, can you unmute?
Yeah, I'll do the screen share in a moment. So
You look
two
like you're
links.
like some like concealed witness or something with your
Uh,
backlighting there.
yeah, I'm set up sort of middle of the day at in between stories, so
No
a
way.
friend's place. Um, so for those of you that are watching, easiest way to go to this app, it's a public facing one. The link's there, data.thepublicrecord.ca. There's only one app deployed so far, so just click the link for the building permits app there. Below, I just have a notepad that if anybody wishes to ask questions, they can put it there and I can follow up as well later because we're going to run short on time here in the Zoom. So confirming that you're seeing my screen here, let's get going. So this is the application here that I vibe coded. It is a building permit database going back 16 years for the city that I cover, the city of Hamilton. I encourage you to randomly put in any numbers you wish, and you're going to see an autofill there right away. And you can click through to any address and see what you're getting. So feel free to click through and play with this as we're going. I'm going to have 5 stages in 5 minutes here. So firstly, this is one of those itches that I've been wanting to scratch forever. Every month since 2011, I've been collecting the city's PDF that they send to the National Statistics Agency, Statistics Canada, of their building permits that they issue each month. And this is the spreadsheet that's converted to PDF. Who knows how many dozens of different people have been doing the spreadsheet. Statistics Canada doesn't care much for the text data accuracy. They just want the permit type and the amount of money. So each month, people have different formats for filling out addresses. They put the address name wrong. Adding to the challenges, the city of Hamilton is 6 former cities put together. So we have 6 King Streets, 6 Main Streets. We have 1 King Street where you go King Street East to when you're traveling east, you go from King Street East to King Street West because you go across a former municipal boundary, and then 3 blocks later it becomes King Street East again. So you can imagine that you have a lot, you can see that you have a lot of duplicate data. So 197 PDFs that I've been sitting on for years. And here they are. You know, you've got all these PDFs just sitting in a folder. I tried various cleanup methods over the past decade without success because every PDF is different, which means each one needs to be individually extracted from. Now with Cloud Opus, I was able to load all of these in, and it was able to do all 197 of them and give me a nice clean CSV. So to give you a sense of some of the data here, so this one here I've chosen because, for example, here, I don't know how much you're seeing my scrolling here, but I'm going to zoom in a bit. So take, for example, this address here, 944 Highway 8. Now, thankfully, it says Stony Creek there, but 944 Highway 8, for example, well, firstly, it's not spelt that way on the street address data. So turning to the process, throw all of this in, and this was when I was still using Clone.ai, so I create zip files, upload those zip files, and tell it convert it to CSV format. So what it gives me is the data into a CSV format, which is very useful. A bunch of the stuff I end up dropping, but basically what I'm interested in is the address, location, type of permit, and the value of the permit. Now I have that, which is a good starting point. That's something I could not do before. I can't tell you how frustrating it's been. The only time I've been using these sheets is, for example, the city says, we've had a record period of building permits compared to this. And then I can go back to the historical reports and fact check. But each time the editorial process required hours to clean the data, find the data, very messy. Now, so I've got my CSV. Claude cannot fix bad data without getting instructions. So what I ended up doing was I went to the city's open data portal and I grabbed the city's master address database. So this is every address in the entire municipality. I put that into Claude and I said, take this database, compare and match typos to their nearest correct street name. And in this case, it did. So there's 130 or 110,000 records at this point. It managed to match all but 3,000 of them. At this point, I have 3,000 rows that have to be reviewed by hand. And this is where, as a local journalist, this is my advantage, is somebody might want to do a national database of all of this, but they don't understand the localisms that are these data errors that people care about on their street. So I was able to know, for example, that Highway 8, there's 3 different Highway 8s in the city. I knew which one was what. And slowly I start weaning it down to I had about 250 records that required me to manually fix. There wasn't ways of batch fixing them. And then at the very end, I had 3 that I could not fix, and I actually filed for the actual original record. And then I had my database. Dealing with the multiple street addresses, for example, the multiple King Streets, the multiple Main Streets. There, I use City zoning data. So, for example, 100 King Street, there are a bunch of them, but only 2 of them are commercially zoned, and only 1 of them is permitting office use. So, for example, there was a permit that said office expansion. Claude was able to then know, oh, the only place that that could exist is the commercial zoning with office use, and then attached it to the proper address. This is where I'm really enjoying vibe coding. Is my next step was, okay, I want to make a map of this, and I load up QGIS, and I'm preparing to geocode in QGIS. And then I went to myself and said, why don't I ask Claude if it can use the address database to geocode? And it's like, yeah, and there we are. And that's the last time I will probably ever use QGIS for data, because I only do it once or twice a year. It's not my day to day. The other quirk, of course, is that some of the permits were listed as Hamilton when they were actually one of the 5 other former municipalities. Now I turn to Claude Design. And Claude Design, for those of you that have not used it, is a very visual and intuitive way of building out a website. So what you're seeing right now is we're at the final version. But as I'm going through this and I'm thinking about what do I want people to see, you're able to, for example, if I wanted to change the order of these boxes, you just simply put a comment and you go down and click that box and you say, for example, I want to change this title. So for your users in your newsroom, they don't have to worry about doing anything in a text editor or a notepad, the back-end code. They can click and do all of this. The other really neat thing was, so what I wanted was a basic lookup. Now I'm saying to Claude, okay, what else could we do with this? And at this point, this is when the new Fable model came out, and I had a bunch of tokens, and I'm like, let's burn tokens and see what Fable puts out as options. So it ended up adding a bunch of ideas, visualizations. Many of them got integrated into the actual application. Some of them did not. I've unfortunately got, there we go. So for example, this is not public facing, but this is one of the visualizations that it created, was this idea of heat indexing each month, how much permits are there. And I would have never thought of that. And that's sitting on the back end for me to play with later. At which point, then I start thinking, how am I using this product journalistically? Well, one of the things I'm always interested in is what's the top value of a permit? But here's the thing. I'm going to turn off inflation adjustment for a moment. Here's the thing. A permit in 2012 has its 2012 value. So for example, non-inflation adjusted, we had a huge hospital built, $303 million in 2012. Click inflation adjustment, and it will tell me what the current value is. That way, I do not say, this is the most valuable permit in Hamilton history. Well, yeah, it's in $26, but the 2012 when inflation index, so you can see we jumped from 303 to 410. Now this is, where am I pulling this data from? Because when we talk about data accuracy, the less data that I am creating myself, I prefer to go to experts. So this is actually pulling from our equivalent of the Federal Reserve. The Bank of Canada has an inflation data API. So it is pulling the inflation calculation using the official Bank of Canada data.
Joey, sorry, we need to wrap up a little bit to get to the next week. We still have a few more to go demos.
Yeah.
This is great. Any questions for him? I like what you said. The one thing, like using the GIS software that you know, oh, you were going to do it manually, and then you realize, why don't I just ask Claude to do it for me? Because I do feel like that's kind of a fundamental shift that people using these tools get to eventually. You know, it's like, well, yeah, don't like assume that you need like help on a narrower small thing. Like go ahead and just try to ask Claude like the bigger question, like really give it like what you want to do, and then have it come up with the goal to help you figure out how to do that, right? Rather than you thinking, well, I need to use this specific interface to build something.
Bert, if I may, I want to do two quick, very quick, 10 seconds. So firstly, on user testing, people were telling me I can't find a permit at the address I'm looking for. And new subdivisions, for example, will have the permit at the old address, not the new address. So you can see there that I added a feature after user testing in code, just said add this feature of if people put in an address and there's no permit, create a record that says here are the nearby permits. One, and the closing line is, I've coded before, but the great thing with vibe coding is you don't have to know the code. You just have to know what the code output you're looking for is.
That's great. Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I feel like, and again, this application of taking government data that's in, PDFs buried in incomprehensible, unusable formats and making this like beautiful, visualizations and all these things. Like this is totally something that everybody could be doing.
What models did you use again? Can you just say what models you used to work?
So I started with Opus 4.8, which was available at the time. Then I did a bunch of stuff in Fable, especially the efficiency work. There's no third-party calls on this, so everything is locally hosted on my web server. And I'm on OpenStack, and I'm paying them $48 a month US for my server, and I'm running a ridiculous amount of things on their server.
Okay, but yeah, it's Claude Code you said. Okay, good.
Yeah, sorry, Claude Code. Sorry, I thought when you said model.
Yeah, I did. I said it wrong. I meant, yeah, sorry. That's what I wanted to know. I thought I heard you say Codex, but okay.
Okay, you can keep asking questions in the chat of Joey, but let's go ahead and go to Patrick, who just moved to a new place and is going to talk about what you built to keep tabs on that. Patrick, are you there?
Hi, and thanks for having me. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Super. Let me see if I can share my screen. And let's see. Is that working?
Yep, we can see it. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So the backstory is I just moved from New York to Vienna, Austria, a month and a half ago. And so I haven't lived here in many, many years. So I was trying to catch up on where I'm living, and the media space here is very active. It's very well funded. It's very generous. But what it is national, and it's relatively kind of outdated, and it's also unfortunately politically captured. So where we moved to, the 15th district of Vienna, is really there was no local news. There's no local media. So I hadn't lived here, so I wanted to learn about this place. And this place is special. It's the most diverse pocket of Austria. 50% of almost 50% of residents don't have citizenship. And it is also the poorest district in the city, but it's very rich in life, and it's arguably the most interesting one. So there's a lot of news that can be found in city district council meeting transcripts and all kinds of public data. There's some data repositories, and there's lots and lots of PDFs. There's lots of statements by the parties that get shared in PDFs by the political parties, and nobody reads them. So I wanted to have something for myself and my family built with Claude, and then I was also thinking eventually I want print copies or like have little QR codes at the tram or subway stops to see if I can get other people interested in this district. And so what I would love to get out of this is really your ideas on how to improve this. So if you have an idea and you see anything, please put it in the chat, because that's really gold for me. Before I go through the elements, maybe I'd talk about, like, because that's come up with previous ones, like how it works. So Saturday mornings, I have a scheduled Claude session on my Mac Mini that wakes up a disposable cloud sandbox, reads the memory. I have the memory in Notion. It's a bit of it's like the glamping of storage, but there you go. It has some standing instructions there and a running story ledger and a no repeat register, so because it was kind of repeating itself. And then it has the notes on every past run. So it has the edits that I had in the earlier runs. And then it goes to report the district council, city council, the local newspapers that I can get to, and the data points. And then I get to see the paper, and then I commit. So then the AI never really touches the Git. It's like me doing the publish button, and then the site itself is just a static HTML file on Cloudflare without any backend or tracking, and it's password protected so far. And I'm just kind of still fine-tuning it a little bit. Some of the rules that I have is every claim is linked and tagged, and then I ask it to highlight any unverified material that's highlighted in a caveat box. And whenever there are any corrections that I notice or that the system notices, there's a corrections like part in this mini publication. So for instance, I claimed in the last edition that the district had no cinema, and there is one cinema, so we have a correction there. The best story so far from this is that the city stopped releasing property price set data. And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting. There's only commercial and some other messy ways of getting this. So we grabbed all the data, we cleaned it. I mean, AI cleaned it. I just told it to clean it. And then I filed a FOIA request to get that data. And then I'll see, just for the heck of it, to see if I can update it and kind of cross-correlate it with other data points, because then it'll be really interesting. And then the other thing is I'm tracking claims that don't have a follow-up. So if there's a promise in the district council transcript, we will do this by then. It will be tracked, and we'll see if there's movement on it. Yeah. So I'll walk you through it. So this is kind of just the weather forecast. This is one data point from one interesting data point from the city's data portal. This is the main story. There's a main street here, has new rules in place that that affect really everyone who lives there. And so I have here the story with a TLDR, what's unverified, and the story, and then where the various parties stand. So what they said based on the transcripts and the sources. And going back, and then I have, because it's a slow-paced place with lots of small talk. I want to be able to have small talk with my new neighbors, so I always extract 3 new things that happened in my district this week that I can have a conversation about at the dog park, and it would extract them from the news. So that's the road opening, what's happening on water and irrigation because we're having a heat wave, and the debate at the ice rink. So more news stories here about what's happening, and a debate to contrast 2 different, in a district council discussion, there was 2 different positions on a park that is being built in a semi-abandoned railway area. And so it's an interesting part, like 2 sides of it. And then, because I don't know much about this district yet, I have various little feature articles written based on data I could find from the various sources. One is how to do something in this district, then a history piece, a profile of a street, some kind of culture reference, because this is the most diverse district of Vienna, profile of a minority community here and of their history in Austria, and some data there. One link to America, whatever it is, and it's really funny that it found this cinema that so we have here the oldest cinema, Europe's oldest cinema for the public, and it's in a neighboring district. And there was another one here that was called the American Cinema, and that was before Hollywood existed, so I thought it's kind of cute. Then a dish that's popular with history of the dish and where it's served in the district, and a recipe and a shop.
Yeah, sorry, you could just wrap up because we saw 2 more people. We're running out of time, but this is
Sure.
awesome. I mean, this is very cool. I mean, this would be super useful, obviously, for anybody new moving to Vienna, or for tourists, or anybody. There was one question from Ulrike asking, why is it in English and not auf Deutsch? Yeah.
Okay. Well, just because my family, we speak English at home, but definitely could have an Altdeutsch version for it. Yeah, actually, Claude encouraged me to have an Arabic version because it's a widely spoken language in the district. So I'll definitely give that a try. Just one. Here's the map, and
Beautiful.
here's an op-ed, and here's a haiku that
Oh,
ends the
fantastic.
day
Who wrote
and the
who wrote
quiz.
the op-ed? This is Claude's view?
I gave Claude my political opinions and had what would be an op-ed that would represent my political opinions on the debate issue. And it made good arguments, like it convinced me, but we'll see.
Okay, this is super cool. So is this link live? Like, can people go to it? You'll put it in the chat, or is it still behind a password?
It's behind the password, but if anyone's interested, I can happy to share the password individually. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Patrick. No, this is great. Yeah, since we're running out of time, I'll just say if you have questions, please ask in the chat. And Angela, you are up next. Angela.
Hello. Okay, let me share my screen.
Yes.
Hopefully, okay. I don't want everyone to be seeing themselves. What are people?
Yeah, we can see
We'll see this spreadsheet. Okay, awesome. I am Angela Eichhorst. I'm the AI data reporter and product developer at the Connecticut Mirror. My colleagues won a Pulitzer that I had nothing to do with, and I want to talk to you about Project 169, which is what I'm calling a project to look at municipal meetings in towns across Connecticut. We're a statewide newsroom, which means we have reporters based by beat. So we have an environment reporter, a business reporter. So we don't have anyone who is based on like looking at a particular town or looking at a particular region. And we have our state General Assembly coverage very much down, but there's an opportunity that we may be missing local news and recurring issues that come up in multiple towns and local news before or local meetings before it makes it to that state house level. So this is an idea that also shout out to Stephen Sterling from Philadelphia Inquirer, who talked through an idea similar to this at the Hacks Hackers conference. But basically, can people see my code screen? Okay, so here is a list of I've got 85 towns right now that it's pulling their YouTube YouTube channels that has the town, the county, and using, YTDLP, FFmpeg, Whisper, and OpenAI. It is pulling a transcript of the YouTube videos and summarizing about 3 to 5 key points that happen in the meeting, and then assigning it a beat and pulls it into this Google Sheet that people in my newsroom can see. So it has the date that it processed it, the town, the county, the name of the meeting, and here it has the beats here that were decided by AI. So the housing reporter who is interested in affordable housing, I wrote that in the note of what AI should categorize as housing versus human services, or and anything that doesn't fit into a specific beat goes into general assignment. And so here is the kind of 2 sentences summary that was AI generated. So just a couple of examples. There's a proposed butterfly habitat project by the Butterfly Man. Someone was complaining about firewood. It's just from my looking through it, firewood processing and permits for that. And so, this is a lot easier than watching all of the town meetings, which frankly, no one had time to do, and no one was looking at that town level. And here in this tab is the moment, like timestamped from the YouTube video that reporter could then go and fact check and find that easily. But still, this is pretty small potatoes. Often a lot of these are about a permit that happens to one house. But then what happens after this is a digest email. Can people see the digest email? Cool. This goes to each of our reporters. So our housing reporter gets this roundup that has the town, this 2-sentence summary of what happened, and the link to fact check it. But still, this can be like 60 points in an email of the weekly roundup, which again is a bit small potatoes of reporters to read all of it. And so what I'm looking for next steps, if anyone can help me with the pattern spotting across weeks or even month, because this spreadsheet now has over 2,000 rows. And so I think next steps for this is really looking for like a stronger pitch of, oh, this issue has come up in 3 towns. There is a keyword search in Google Sheet, but not fuzzy matching. So I wanted to present here to get anyone's ideas of how to really find the trends, the threads, beyond like copying and pasting the whole spreadsheet into ChatGPT, if anyone has any thoughts on that. But I will leave my email here and I will be reading the chat as well.
Thank you. Yeah. And thank you for coming in under time on the demo too. Appreciate it, Angela. Yeah, great to see that you took this also from the meeting and built it on yourself. There was some questions asking, did you consider using existing tools, or there was something missing in those from your user needs, or you just went ahead and decided to build it yourself? Yeah.
Yes, there was something missing from those other tools. No one is interested in my newsroom. No one is interested at looking at what New Milford said in their town meeting. It's only interesting insofar as issues that come up across multiple towns. We don't cover particular town news, so it's really like the condensing everything and finding like a new angle. And I want to have like, maybe someone was suggesting to me like 3 bullet points of potential tips to send to the housing reporter that again these 60 points already get closer, then she cannot watch hundreds of hours of video because she is doing her job. So something that really sends some additional tips that someone could look into at a quick glance is what I'm looking for.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, no, definitely some comments in the chat. I see people saying that they've worked on similar things. That's awesome. Thank you, Angela. So for our last demo, we have something that's totally unrelated to any news or journalism things. Andrew, James, you're here to bring us home.
Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, mine's totally different. I'm sorry. I was at the Wall Street Journal doing data visualizations for about 7 years. Then I went to a satellite company where we collected satellite data, Earth observation data that was sort of uses radio signals. So like a lot of our stuff was like acoustic that you're listening to. So you have to figure out ways to present it in ways that are massive data sets, but you kind of want to hear it. And I would kind of present it as like audio is an interesting thing to use that we don't really use in news. And it also is an accessibility thing as well, where visual data can also be presented in an audio format. But this is a little tool that I just vibe coded for using your camera to do edge detection within a scene and pick out colors, and then you can build a song around it, and I made it a little bit more musical. I'm in San Francisco and I went to it's a gallery called the the Intersection of Art and Technology. And so this is basically it. I'm going to share the link, and I'm also going to try and share my screen for my phone so you can kind of get a little feel for what it looks like. But it uses your phone screen or your like any kind of like or your phone camera or any kind of camera to identify edges where colors change and then create music around it. And that's basically what this is. And let me see if I can just share. Oops. Let me see if this is going to work. One second. Down to the minute here. One second. This.
Yes, I'm putting you under pressure here.
Down to a minute. My share is very slow for some reason. But yeah, so I guess just kind of going on with it, it's sort of just this idea that we like always present data visually, and there's a lot more ways to present things layered on top of it. And kind of have more like dimensions to it. And it's going to work. There we go. So this is my phone. So a lot of like different controls, changes in security, pixelation.
Is it supposed to be playing sound yet?
Can you, yeah, can you hear it? Maybe you can't hear it.
I can't hear the sound.
And I was just sort of sharing my phone screen, but yeah, so if I can get back to our meeting, it's sort of just using edge detection. It's ways that you can kind of layer data over top of an image or pull out actual data from an image. And it's one thing that I think that like, we don't really think about maybe in news is like how we actually present data as like only one single set, one thing that's sort of like interactive. We see it visually, but there's also a lot more ways to kind of build depth into it that also makes it accessible to a lot more people. But yeah, and I think that's 1 minute over.
Yeah, that's great. No, and if people have any other questions, I'll try to share links as we can for the projects in the to everybody afterwards. Thank you everybody for joining. Yeah, sorry we went a little bit over here, but nice to end on something kind of fun. And I do think that that is again something where AI, whatever, using it to translate different forms of media into other forms of media, I think is super useful and compelling. So again, yeah, we'll do more of these in the future if there's demand for them. Great seeing you all. We also do have some events coming up in case you happen to be in LA in a couple of weeks. We're doing an event on AI and visual journalism. And next month, in late September at the New York Times, we're doing an event on AI and investigative reporting if you are in town, and more to come. Thank you to all our great demo presenters today. I really appreciate the time and for you all taking the time to join us. See you soon.